This video on FPL TV is very proudly sponsored by OneFootball. With a rating of 4.8 out of 5 from now over 100,000 reviews on the App Store, OneFootball truly is the biggest and best app for football news, scores and stats from hundreds of leagues all over the world. As for FPL, you can choose to follow every team in the Premier League on OneFootball and then get live updates from all the goals and assists every game week. Download it now completely free using the link in the description box below. Hey guys, and welcome back to FPL TV. Before looking at my team and transfer considerations for Game Week 4, let's see how my side performed before the international break. I was a bit unsure of what to expect from Game Week 3, with my Liverpool triple up facing a very stern test against Chelsea, and although I did expect Jota to get benched in this one, in the end 15 points from the 3 was still pretty satisfactory. The thinking with Jota was to always consider the longer term, and with that Chelsea fixture now out of the way, he'll face Leeds, Palace and then Brentford in the next 3 games. And with Firmino now looking to have a spell on the sidelines, I'm certainly happy that I did keep Jota for this upcoming run, who, with Firmino out, should now be less prone to rotation. In defence, there were 2 clean sheets last week, with both Luca Digne and Luke Shaw keeping their first of the season, but there was no such luck for Luke Ayling against Burnley, with Leeds yet to keep a clean sheet so far. I'm not too concerned about that yet though, because from Game Week 5 onwards is when Leeds' fixture run appears to be very good, and that's when I hope Ayling can become a very handy budget option in the squad. The rest of my points came up front in Game Week 3, with Danny Ings getting an assist against Brentford. That's Ings' 3rd consecutive return since the season began, so he's certainly been a very good servant to start the campaign with. However, with some very difficult fixtures now coming up for Aston Villa, including Chelsea this week who have been very solid defensively, it may be time for us to go our separate ways. No doubt the most positive part of the game week was making a sound decision on the captaincy. Realistically, with Mo Salah facing Chelsea, I was only ever going to give the armband to either Fernandes or Antonio, and that ended up being a big contrast in returns. Michail Antonio made it 3 consecutive double-digit hauls to begin this season. Legendary stuff, and his 22 points certainly resulted in a solid enough game week. He's simply on fire at the moment. So for Game Week 3, my team scored a respectable 61. On the Saturday, with the Antonio captaincy success, it was looking to be a very positive green arrow. However, on Sunday, unfortunately, there were goals from both the popularly owned Greenwood and Heung-min Son, which turned that green into red. The only 2 players that I really didn't want to return that day. Much like Game Week 2, despite what looked to be a very solid score on paper, was again not enough to secure a rise in the rankings, though 61 only resulted in a small red arrow this time out. And like I mentioned last week, overall I'm still fairly satisfied with the start, trailing just 12 points behind the top 100k. Let's move on to Game Week 4 now, and with 2 free transfers available, let's see how the current squad lines up, as well as some transfer considerations before the deadline. Also, if you do enjoy the content here at FPL TV, then be sure as always to support the channel by leaving a like and most importantly getting subscribed. You can also hit the notification bell so you always know when a new video goes live. Last week, I made the free transfer of Matt Targett down to budget enabler Livramento at Southampton. Initially, the plan was to bring in Kieran Tierney last week, but then with Cristiano Ronaldo signing for United, at that point I still didn't know what his price could be, so I had to make a snap decision without that information and brought in Livramento instead to free up as much cash as possible, therefore for certain leaving me flexible for that future Ronaldo move. In the end, Ronaldo came in at 12.5 million, honestly a little bit less than what I expected, and knowing that now, I probably could have still opted for Tierney in Game Week 3, who I certainly now would have preferred this week at home to Norwich. Although not ideal, even though Livramento isn't the best option for me this game week, facing 2 of my West Ham players, he does at least free up a lot more funds to use in the future. And to be fair, once Leeds have got Liverpool out of the way this week, I'll then be utilising Luke Ayling in my squad on a much more consistent basis anyway, which, had I brought in Tierney, would have only given me selection headaches every game week. Given how good West Ham have been going forward in the opening 3 games, if they score 2 against Southampton, then Livramento would end with just a single pointer, unless of course he delivers some attacking returns. So, with Billy Gilmour on my bench, who is very likely to bank a 2-pointer, perhaps I can play him instead. My plan for Game Week 4 was to make a simple free transfer this week, of Danny Ings going out and Calvert-Lewin coming in. As mentioned, Aston Villa now head into a run of much more difficult fixtures, where they face Chelsea, Everton, United and then Tottenham in just the next 4. That doesn't mean to say that Ings now immediately becomes a bad option, but against tougher opposition, I'm simply hoping to play the odds here and opt for another forward who I think can outscore him over that time. Calvert-Lewin has started this season strongly and boasts a much better run of fixtures, with Burnley, Villa and Norwich in just the next 3. He's managed a goal in every game so far, and although 2 of them have been penalties, the fact he's on spot kicks can only boost his FPL credentials. His underlying stats have looked very promising too, having had the most shots on target this season and the second most big chances. Calvert-Lewin has remained an injury concern through the internationals, but was pictured in training recently, so I'll be waiting to hear from Rafa's press conference first before making any final call on that transfer. Now, that was the initial plan, but over the last 2 weeks, with the incredible signing of Ronaldo back to the Premier League, a lot of us managers' attention has been turned to him. Firstly, on whether he'll start at home to Newcastle, and secondly, how we can fit him into our sides. Ronaldo himself has been hinting at starting this fixture, but it's another one that I'll be waiting to hear Solskjaer's press conference on, to try and squeeze out any last bit of information before the deadline. With 2 free transfers available this week, the thinking would be to let his teammate Fernandes go, for a budget enabler like Sissoko in midfield, and then upgrading Watford's on-loan budget forward Perica to Ronaldo, thus switching to a 4-3-3. It doesn't feel great to sell Fernandes before this tantalising home fixture against Newcastle, but if he is to lose free kicks and penalties to Ronaldo, a big source of his points usually, then his 12 million price tag could be a lot more difficult to justify. Of course, this move has every chance to backfire, as Bruno proved with his hat-trick from open play in Game Week 1. But he is my easiest route to Ronaldo, and it may just be too tempting to pass up. So let's look at how the side could line up with those 2 moves. With Ronaldo potentially coming in with these 2 free transfers, I'd then have that decision to take a -4 and still make the Danny Ings to Calvert-Lewin move as well. So they're the 3 transfers that I'm weighing up before the deadline. For the captaincy, for me, if I am to bring in Ronaldo this week, then I'll certainly be going the whole hog and captaining him for this one. Will it turn out to be a poor decision, a decision based on excitement and nostalgia? Very possibly. There's no guarantees that CR7 will start this one, but I can't imagine they'll wait until an away fixture to West Ham to give him his long-awaited return debut, and a fixture at home looks to be the ideal chance to do so, especially in a fixture as favourable as Newcastle. So personally, I think it's for certain he'll feature. It's just a question of to what extent, whether it'll be in the starting lineup or from the bench. I guess in the case of the latter, I'll just have to hope that he can do damage as a sub, in what will undoubtedly be a mammoth reception for the United legend. Ultimately, the fairy tale effect of us FPL managers getting to captain Cristiano Ronaldo again is a prospect that may be too exciting to turn down, even if it does go tits up. Hypothetically, if I were to have a change of heart and decide not to transfer in Ronaldo this week, then the Calvert-Lewin transfer would still be a very easy one, and it's likely I'd hand the captaincy armband to Bruno Fernandes instead. Whether Ronaldo starts or not, I just really like the look of this Newcastle fixture, especially with their talisman Callum Wilson missing. There will no doubt be a huge buzz around Old Trafford even if Ronaldo's on the bench, so Bruno still has every chance to score highly himself. It would also save me a transfer and that -4 hit, so it's a real head over heart decision. The vice captaincy goes to Antonio, and to be fair, with him registering double digits in all 3 games so far, it does make you wonder why he'll probably go more under the radar this week in what is no doubt a decent fixture against Southampton. So that's all my team considerations heading into Saturday's Game Week 4 deadline, and after a very strange international break, I'll definitely be holding on to these transfers until Saturday morning to make a final call. If you are interested to see the final transfers, then I'll post my final team over on Twitter shortly before the Game Week deadline. Good luck to you all for Game Week 4, FPL responsibly, and I'll catch you all very soon.